in the building to talk about a topic of the week. And I think this week was important because Thanksgiving is approaching, and the topic was gratitude and recognition. And I thought it was very timely that we talk about gratitude and recognition today. We are grateful as an institution that Kylie and her family chose us to participate in her care. And I'm grateful that David Langer and the leadership of the neurosurgery department had the foresight and skill sets to be able to take care of Kylie in an empathetic and patient-centered approach. So I just want to give a little bit of a background in terms of why we're here today. So Kylie was 17 years old. She was a student in Michigan, and she was involved in a terrible, terrible accident where she was injured during a school shooting almost 2 years ago. The shooting killed 4 other people and injured numerous others. Kylie suffered for many years following the life-saving surgery. What brought her to Lenox Hill Hospital was nothing short of a miracle. Through the introduction of Sven Gerlinger, our SVP and Chief Experience Officer, she was introduced to Dr. David Langer. Now, for those of you who don't know Dr. David Langer, he is one of the most caring and thoughtful and empathetic human beings on this earth. And his first question and thought was, how can I help, and who is the best person on my team to take care of Kylie? Fast forward, we were very lucky to have John Caridi join the team roughly 1 year ago. So David thought of creating a team led by Dr. John Caridi, partnering with Dr. Frank Schwab and Dr. Dan Schuba, 3 of the most renowned spine surgeons in all of America, to take care of Kylie. I really wanted to say that only at Lenox Hill Hospital could you have spine surgeons from different departments and different divisions and different hospitals coming together for the sole purpose of bringing their expertise to the operating room so that Kylie would have the best chance at having a normal life. I want to thank Kylie for her bravery, for coming here and visiting us, now the 2nd time, and hopefully a 3rd and a 4th, and we can enjoy more of what New York City has to offer. And I want to thank her family, Marita and Matt, her mother and father, for instilling this feeling of toughness and bravery and grit. I don't know many people who at the age of 17 could have persevered from what she did. So thank you. I want to introduce a few members of the team. Dr. John Caridi, who I had mentioned, who is our spine surgeon and has a leadership role in the Western region. And Dr. Chetan Safia, he's the director of our Center for Gun Violence Prevention at Northwell Health. And I look forward to a wonderful panel. So thank you.
We should do a quick video to explain the background of this myself.
So I'm here today for a spinal fusion to correct my spinal deformity that was caused on November 30th, 2021. I remember I could not feel my legs at all. After a lot of PT and OT over the course of the past 2 years, I definitely was able to regain a lot of stability back in my legs. Not 100%, but a lot back to the point where I could walk again. Other doctors that I had talked about with this, were kind of making it sound like an easy surgery, almost just kind of, get it done and go on with my life. But, this is something I take very seriously, and this is a big surgery for me that will change my life probably. So, I wanted someone that took it as seriously as me, and I believe Dr. Langer's team does that. I pushed it back for a long time because of college and stuff. So now that it's finally happening, I'm excited, and I hope this is a good step forward to my life, and a pain-free life.
So first of all, thank you all for being here and for giving us a chance to tell colleagues in our story. You know, I have been through some stuff. We all have, and there's a talk I give called Invisible Forces about the people you meet along the way and how they result in experiences, outcomes, sometimes negative, hopefully positive. You know, Sven and I met primarily because of my interest in was turned into a small company called Playback Health, which is basically was a project at Northwell to create a better way of communicating with families and their loved ones, which is making recordings of your films and really delivering a type of medical record that's unique. And oddly enough, Sven and I kept in touch over the years. He knew about the project, and when I think he also knew of our surgical expertise here at Lenox Hill, which I think we're the best in the world at pretty much everything we try to do. And he came to us, and that was the first invisible force, that someone who, you know, not only knew of our expertise in areas of, you know, patient empathy, but also, you know, he didn't have to call us. He could have called anyone from Michigan to New York, and he chose to call and ask for help. And I had not had my spinal cord injury yet, but when I first met Kylie, she was suffering, but not suffering enough. I think she was in college and she wanted to wait. But I used a video. I sent her a video of all her films to try to explain to her what we plan on doing, and to sort of set a standard for what we're doing here. Well, unbeknownst to me, I had my own spinal cord injury, and John Caridi would arrive about a year later. And by the time she came up for air, I approached this with a little bit of a different experience, and also had this fantastic partner that creates an environment of just really innovative and outstanding spine surgery. And so I think, you know, the combination of all these things coming together, I understood what she'd been through myself, and I knew that we had a team here that was just extraordinary in the way we, not just in the operating room, but when patients get out of the operating room, whether it's on our ICU with our nursing care there, the floor, our advanced care practitioners, our PAs, as well as the rehab people and the administration who's really supported us. And it all starts with Sven. And, you know, I've gotten to know Sven really well. He's our chief experience officer. His daughters, both, one of them who's sitting right here, who works in our emergency room. His other daughter spent some time with us in neurosurgery as well. So we have a great family. We have great leadership. And I think Kylie's good outcome is because of the culture we have here, and because of the type of people like John Caridi that are willing to come here and put their shingle out and treat really fantastic people like Kylie. So, you know, the truthfully, the honor is ours that you chose to come here. We're lucky to be able to take care of people like you, and you're obviously an incredibly unique young woman. And this is just the beginning, hopefully. I know you want to be an OT, and, you know, maybe you'll come back and we'll continue the invisible forces, and you'll work with us again as a occupational therapist someday. So thanks for coming all the way here. We're looking forward to see you graduate from Michigan State, and hopefully the Spartans will be a better team in a few years. But thank you again for choosing us.
Hi, I'm John Caridi. I'm the director for Northwell Health's neurosurgery spine program for the Western region. And I got to know Kylie because David introduced me to her. And, you know, she's a remarkable person. And I don't think that at her age I would have had the fortitude to come back from the things that she's had to endure. You know, she had this injury, and, you know, the bullet destroyed some of the stability in her spine, and we had to, and over time, her neck started to bend forward. And so we had to do a pretty aggressive surgery in order to essentially loosen up her neck and bring her head back up into a normal posture. And, you know, she's done remarkably well, and it's really amazing how great her recovery has been. And I think she's looking at a great life. I don't think that this is ultimately going to cause any problems in the future. And I'm looking forward to, the day that, you're treating our patients too. So.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm so happy I was able to make the trip out here. Yeah, I mean, I guess, this surgery has been for a long time, it was a huge weight on my shoulders. To me, the surgery kind of represented like an end of a journey and the start of a kind of like a refreshing new journey, I guess. Just kind of symbolized, the end of a lot of suffering and pain. And I think now that the surgery has been completed, this is a chance for me to move forward and hopefully regain my life back. So yeah, I guess I just want to say thank you to both of you guys because, I'm just so happy that I had a great team of doctors that cared about me as much as, my family's cared about me. And I truly got the best care here. I mean, just from the moment I stepped in the hospital, everyone has been so incredibly kind and caring, and they've just been treating me as if they've known me their whole lives. So I'm just incredibly grateful for the team here at Lenox Hill.
So throughout this whole experience, we've experienced so many blessings, and we just have to really take a look and just be grateful for all the wonderful things, all the wonderful angels that we've met here at Lenox Hill, and all of Kylie's healthcare providers that we had in Michigan. Just thank you to everyone. It's been just a wonderful blessing.
Yeah, I'll just second that. We count our blessings every day. Having such a wonderful team of skilled professionals just helping out, helping my daughter get her life back to normal. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much. So, first of all, Sven, Dr. Langer, Dr. Caridi, thank you for having me here today and for the incredible work that you guys do. Kylie, you speaking here today with your family really exemplifies courage, right? We have met so many victims of school shootings, gang violence, suicide attempts. The trauma is unimaginable. It's not something that many of us in this room can understand. And so the fact that you're here spending time speaking on this issue, advocating, is making a difference. And so thank you for that. As mentioned, I'm Dr. Chetan Sathya. I'm a pediatric surgeon at Cohen Children's, which is our children's hospital here in Northwell Health. We're fortunate here in Northwell to have a Center for Gun Violence Prevention. Our CEO, Michael Dowling, made this an institutional priority back in 2019. Really, this was one of the first health systems to have a Center for Gun Violence Prevention at that time. And you'd be surprised how few other hospitals actually focus on gun violence as a public health issue. But we are talking about the #1 killer of kids in this country, right? The most common reason that your child will die in this country is at the hands of a firearm, period. And so it is inspiring to be at this institution and to see kind of the recovery that you've had, and to also know that we are trying to do something about it, right? Because prevention is key. We all know the stats: 49,000 Americans roughly killed every year because of guns. Another 80,000 are injured and disabled because of guns. The long-term consequences, disability, chronic pain, behavioral health issues cannot be understated. And I think your recovery has just been incredible. So kudos to the team and everyone here. I know just a couple talking points here. We feel at Northwell that there is significant room to really reframe this as a healthcare issue, not a political one. At the end of the day, this is about saving lives, safety, less violence, and no mass shootings, something all Americans can agree with. And so we have focused heavily on trying to convene other hospitals around this. We have a new health system CEO council that our CEO launched. We've launched a number of public health campaigns as well, focusing on firearm safety and safe storage. Because at the end of the day, simply storing a weapon safely can actually prevent a mass shooting from actually happening. So we welcome any opportunity to kind of collaborate with you, hear more about your story, amplify your voice, because you are the one who's going to be able to kind of make that difference. So thank you for everything you do.
And questions for me? Oh, by the way, point out the second there, affirmation. Things earlier, we mentioned earlier, but also if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Sure. Kylie, can you talk a little bit about just what surgery is, especially during this Thanksgiving week, like your mom said, some of the things that maybe this surgery has given you that ability to do again, or some of the things that you're enjoying now that you weren't able to do?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still only like 4 months away or like past the surgery, so I definitely still have a lot of healing to do. But I mean, I think it's difficult to kind of say simply because I've experienced this kind of pain for almost 2 years now, and it's constant. It never goes away. And the only thing that really makes it better is just laying down or taking medications. So it's just like small things that I notice throughout my day that kind of makes me realize like, oh, hey, like maybe I'm getting better because, you know, just like, oh, hey, I walked for 20 minutes straight today and I'm not in that much pain. Like that's a good sign. Or like, you know, like I sat up out of bed this morning and I didn't feel the need to take a med right away. And like, to me, that's a huge deal. It doesn't sound that big, but to me that it kind of means to me like, oh, I think I'm getting better, but just very small steps at a time. But any step is, you know, huge to me. So I'm very hopeful that in the future, you know, I'll start to take bigger steps and my pain will just, you know, start to decrease as time goes on. So, and I'm very hopeful for that.
Another question for you, Kylie. First of all, thank you for coming here and sharing your story. I know what you went through, especially with 2 school shootings, must have just been so traumatic. Can you tell us why it's so important for you to make this trip out here today to talk about gun violence? It isn't surely time, you know, to retell the story, you're kind of reliving all the pain you went through, but why is it important for you to share?
I mean, I just think it's important to raise awareness. And, you know, I think gun violence is just becoming such a huge problem in America today. And I choose to share my story because I think it's important that, you know, more people are saying now, oh, I know someone that's been affected by gun violence. That's how common it is now. And so I think by sharing my story, it's kind of a wake-up call in a sense, just for, you know, people around me to kind of understand the seriousness of this issue. And so that's why I choose to, you know, be here and share my story, is just to raise more awareness.
Kylie, I apologize for being late.
No worries.
Could you give me a summation of your story up to this point that brings you here? If you don't mind, I apologize.
Yeah, so on November 30th of 2021, I was a senior at Oxford High School, which is about hour north of Detroit in Michigan. That day, a shooter opened fire in my school. I was injured. The bullet went through my right clavicle and out the left side of my back. So I fell on the floor and I was immobile for a long time, but basically I was kind of like hitting my legs and I couldn't feel my legs, because at the time I didn't know, but my spine was affected. So I was kind of just laying in the school helpless for about 15 minutes until help came, and it felt like the longest 15 minutes of my life. You know, it's like I was just laying there and I couldn't do anything. You know, I didn't want to yell. I didn't want to, you know, move too much to possibly injure myself more. So after that, I was transported to St. Joe's Hospital in Michigan, where I spent the next 2 months, or almost 2 months. I was there from November 30th to January 7th. That day when I got to the hospital, I had an emergency laminectomy. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of what like I understood the procedure as. Basically, they did an MRI and they saw a hematoma on my spine. So they wanted to do an emergency surgery to remove my hematoma. as well as some shards of bone that had entered along with my clavicle. So they removed portions of my T2 and T3 from what I understand. And they also had to remove some pieces of clothing that had also entered along with the bullet. So I had that surgery. I spent a week in the ICU at St. Joe's Hospital. During that week, I also had a clavicle repair surgery as my right clavicle was completely shattered. So I have a titanium plate currently for my right clavicle. After a week in the ICU, I was transferred to the rehab unit where I spent the next 6 weeks. And there I basically learned a bunch of skills that I had to relearn again. So I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to do stairs. I had to learn how to shower by myself. Standing up and down was a big task. Getting out of bed, in and out of bed by myself, brushing my teeth, doing my makeup, all of these simple life tasks that people take for granted oftentimes, I had to relearn again. And I'm so grateful for all my therapists that I've met over the past 2 years for helping me regain my life back. And that's why I've decided to pursue a career in occupational therapy when I'm older. So fast forward January 7th, I was discharged from the hospital. Throughout that summer then, I did a lot of outpatient PT and OT. And that summer they wanted me to have a spinal fusion, which is what they did. But I kind of refused it just because I was going to be a freshman at Michigan State in August at the time. And I didn't want to be recovering from surgery while also moving into a big university as a freshman. So I decided to put it aside. I decided to put the surgery aside for a little bit. So I completed my freshman year, and then after freshman year, I was like, okay, it's time to do it now. So I got it done, and here I am now.
That's a set of circumstances where not most people, human beings, found. Where does the drive come from?
Yeah, I think a huge part of my motivation is the 4 students that were killed in my school. Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, Justin Schilling, and Tate Meir. Those were the 4 people that were killed that day at my school. I think they're a huge drive for me, just simply because all 4 of them were amazing individuals. And I mean, I feel like I can talk to them every day, and I know this is what they would want me to be doing. They would want me to take care of myself. They would want me to continue to spread positivity. They would want me to advocate for safer gun laws and gun violence prevention. So I think, those 4 are huge motivation factors for me and just, my actions today.
Would either of you 2 gentlemen, doctors, kind of go through the medical side? If you could, I apologize again, of what you've been through.
Sure. So Kylie's absolutely right. She knows her medical history. So she had the bullet caused significant damage to the bony structures in her spine. And so the surgery that she had was a function-saving surgery to remove that hematoma. And then the bullet blast destroyed part of the joints that were keeping her spine together, where her neck and thoracic spine meet. So over time, her head started to dip forward in what we call cervical kyphosis. So that's generally extremely painful because you have to hold your head up, and you need these muscles to attach to something to hold your head up. And if they're not attached, it's just going to get worse because gravity is going to keep pulling your head down. So basically, what we had to do was, in the span of a couple hours, correct the deformity that had been, gradually occurring over the course of 2 years. So what we did was essentially cut away sections of the bone in order to kind of loosen up her spine. Then we put screws from the 6th cervical vertebrae down to the 7th thoracic vertebrae. And then a pair of rods, one on either side of her spine, and use those rods to bring her head back up into a kind of a more anatomic posture, so to speak. And then, did our bone grafting and fusion of those segments. So it was pretty extensive surgery.
Is this going to lead to her being able to live a normal life?
I don't foresee any significant problems that she's going to have in the future. There's a slightly higher chance that she may develop some degeneration in the segments up above her spinal fusion, but it's a small chance, and it's not any reason that she should not do anything that she wants to do for the rest of her life.
And to the panel in general, the doctor goes through the medical and how to bring the human back. But it seems to be that the hospital or doctors now are trying to be more proactive in cutting this off at the pass, so to speak. Would any of you like to speak to the importance of prevention of gun violence as doctors and the importance of it?
I can start, but I mean, I did my training many years ago at the University of Maryland, which is in downtown Baltimore, and we have one of the largest trauma centers in the country, the R. Adams Crowley Shock Trauma Center, and we saw day in and day out the victims of gun violence. Usually, it was gunshot wounds to the head, and and it's disheartening to see all of that, and not only the weapons themselves being available, but also that young people think that the answer to their problems is behind the barrel of a gun. So it's something that's frustrating to physicians, because we learn how to put people back together again, but this is an issue where we shouldn't have to learn all of this. It's something that is preventable.
Before I turn it back over to Chethan, because he's probably the right guy to comment on this, I just wanted to point something out, that how remarkable she is. And, when someone goes through this, they have a choice. You can either, when you ask if you're going to be as good as normal, she's actually better than normal, because think of how this affected her life. She'll survive this trauma, but now she's going to become an occupational therapist. This adds a whole other element to her life. She's able to use this experience in a positive way. She's talking about the other unfortunate kids that were killed, and she's going to carry that with her as well. But this is what life's about. I think that's certainly one of the reasons why I do what I do. I know that's why John does what he does. And so, as terrible as this is, and I'll let Chethan, comment on the guns. We all hate them, and but it's something we live with. And what she's doing is a testament to what you can do when you overcome an obstacle. And so brave. So thank you.
Is it a public health emergency? Would you rate it that high?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's not a public health emergency, why is it killing so many kids in this country? So yes, it is firmly a public health issue. And if you look at the way that we tackled, as an industry, tackled car safety, tobacco mitigation, now the opioid industry as well, it was through a more robust public health approach, not politics, right? There's a combination of policy that's required, but really at the end of the day, it's a reframing of the discussion. And, this is a real issue, right? At our level 1 trauma center in Queens, we've seen a 350% increase in the number of kids coming in with bullet wounds. Just in the last 3 months, we saw kids shot in the neck, walking home studying, kids failed suicide attempts, accidental injuries where a 3-year-old was playing with a gun and shot his brother in the head by accident. This is becoming rampant. I say all that, though, with the caveat that there are solutions that work, right? This is preventable. firearm safety counseling from a doctor to a patient, a family, violence prevention. These things are evidence-based, but we have not actually acted on them. There are other countries in the world that actually have very high rates of regional gun ownership, like Canada, for example, Switzerland, that do not have the same level of gun violence. So there are simple regulations, evidence-based strategies that can prevent this. And I think it's really up to us as a healthcare industry and lawmakers, the media, to change the narrative on this and to not focus on just the policies, but really the fact that this is a healthcare issue. And I do have optimism around that.
So it's harder for me to access Kylie's medical record than it is for someone to get a gun and to shoot one. There's more security on my phone, my own phone, to open my phone than there is to somebody to shoot a gun. It's insane, and I think when you come right down to it, this has nothing to do with what's right. It has to do with forces that are far beyond us to even contemplate. But that just says it all. I mean, we're more worried about medical records getting in the wrong hands, or if God forbid someone saw her x-rays, they shouldn't see them. That's more dangerous to her than the shooter. That's just crazy. And when you think about it that way, and the efforts that we make to secure many of the things that are far less lethal, I find it, I have to turn my phone on, I have to type my ID in, or have a facial recognition for my phone. And it's super frustrating. I hate typing my ID and password every day 8,000 times, right? I waste so much time doing that for what? And you can go buy a gun and shoot somebody with zero. So when you think about that, that's our starting point as physicians, and then we see the results of this. It's just mind-boggling. And it's not politics, it just makes common sense.
Mom or Dad, if you have anything else you want to add? Kylie, is there anything else you wanted to add? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dan. Sure, yeah.
I'll be there in a little bit.
Yeah, so. Is that like the same effect with that? I know obviously. So I think that's awesome. Yeah, awesome. Another element. Yeah. 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 Of course. It's like we'd like to somehow create more education and people like hands-on. So any kind of opportunity we get, we go to there just to make it. I saw that yesterday. Not me personally, but we have a person that's very close to her and goes to all those things. We're very close. That's why it's awesome that Michigan, yeah. Right there, yeah, so it's awesome. Thank you so much. It's great meeting you. Thank you so much. much. Appreciate it.
Good luck on your test.
Maybe walking in or going for a walk on the street or whatever you're comfortable with.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. So there is video.
You go from the day of the surgery, and then additional interviews from the day of the surgery. Her family, hospital after surgery, and all those before she came in.
Well, because there's something gets to it, actually. Check up
Dana?
She's just gonna walk in. She's gonna walk in. You want just some people if you need it?
Yeah, we went back.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, thank you.
She can do it one and done and just be finished.
Is Katie shooting it on her cell phone? Do you want me to do it on my cell phone too? Just.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
We're done with the equipment in here, right? You don't need this for 1010. 1010's at Black Hole, right? So maybe we'll start wrapping this up.
No, that's just
When she will cut it.